Honorable Dennis King, Premier of Prince Edward Island, fellow Rotarians, dear friends, and members of the PEI community. Good evening, and welcome to the Rotary State of the Province Address. Mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir et bienvenue au discours du Premier ministre sur l'état de la province. My name is Uma Kanya, and I am the president of Rotary Club of Charlottetown Royalty. I am here also representing President Regan Lewis from Rotary Club of Charlottetown, President Jacqueline Waite from Summerside Rotary Club, President Jeff McKenzie from the Rotary Club of Hillsborough, and President Sharon Riley from the Rotary Club of Montague and Eastern PEI. They also send their greetings. The Premier's address is a yearly tradition that we at Rotary are very privileged to host. Today, our gathering is a bit different, but although we are not in the same room, the sense of togetherness is as strong as ever. If anything, the pandemic has brought us closer together as a community. Our Rotary four-way test, which I will now read, is our guiding principle in everything that we do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? I would also like to acknowledge our district governor, Dr. Ian Doyle, who is presently watching us from Sydney. He has sent us this message to share with you. Premier Dennis King, Charlottetown Royalty President Uma Kanya, Area Governor of PEI, Tom Campbell, Rotarians, and guests. On the occasion of the annual address by the Prince Edward Island Premier to the Rotary Clubs of PEI, I bring greetings from our Rotary District 7820. Our Rotary District is comprised of Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and Labrador, and Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon, and is made up of 44 Rotary clubs. The 5 clubs in PEI make up a very significant part of our Rotary family, and they have been living the Rotary motto of service above self for over 100 years in the province. Premier King, as we are all impacted by COVID-19, I would like to commend you and your health authority on your leadership in guiding your province during a very difficult time. End of his message. Ladies and gentlemen, our mission at Rotary is to be of service to our community. With projects across the island and around the world, we island Rotarians strive to make a difference wherever and whenever we can. From funding libraries, food banks, school breakfast programs, and playgrounds on PEI, to providing food security, education, access to clean water, and working towards polio eradication across the world. Thanks to the generosity of our fellow islanders and local businesses, our fundraisers enable us to be a source of constant support to our communities. The Rotary Club of Charlottetown operates a radio bingo on CFCI every Tuesday night to support youth, seniors, low-income earners, people with special needs, and the environment. Montague and Eastern PEI Gold Mine fundraiser has raised $8.5 million over the past 9 years, financing projects like the TCAP pool and fitness renovations and the Montague Cool Zone Splash Park. Youth and education continue to be a priority. Rotary partnered with PEI Literacy Alliance to bring the Dolly Parton Imagination Library to the island. Over 3,000 children will be receiving free books every month for 3 years to encourage and inspire them to read. The Hillsborough Club's Strive program provides hands-on mentoring at Colonel Gray High School and up to $10,000 in scholarships every year. Summerside Club's Inspire Learning Center recently underwent major renovation and expansion works to prepare for its long-term sustainability. And at our club, the Charlottetown Royalty, our contributions to Reach Foundation, Camp Abigail, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and McPhail Woods are supporting school mentoring, after-school programs, and summer camps. Recently, we donated 6 spin bikes with learning tables to St. Jean's Elementary School. These bikes will be used as part of the school's Flexible Learning Center, where students learn ways to self-regulate themselves in a safe and supporting environment. And last year, our golf tournament raised over $57,000 for priority medical equipment to QEH. As part of the global community, Rotary continues to support international causes. Summerside Club recently sent medical and other essential supplies to the Bahamas. Our club, Charlottetown Royalty, is now wrapping up a 2-year food production program in Kenya. We partnered with Farmers Helping Farmers to teach women in the Kageni area to manage crop production. These women, who used to walk 5 kilometers to fetch water, have now been equipped with proper water storage and irrigation facilities, and the sales from their harvesting surpluses will enable them to send their children to school. And all this would not have been possible without our advertising supplement, which remains our main source of funding. Thank you for your continued support. It is now my pleasure to call upon Premier Dennis King for his State of the Province address.
Good evening. Bonjour tout le monde. Kwe. Thank you very much, Uma, for that very warm welcome and for the great overview of the wonderful work undertaken every day across Prince Edward Island by the Rotary Clubs of Prince Edward Island. And thank you to the Rotary Clubs for working hard to make sure that we're able to connect with Islanders and continue with this important tradition of the State of the Province address each February. Let me also, as Uma had earlier mentioned, to thank the 3 Rotary Clubs who worked with the PEI Literacy Alliance and the government of PEI to bring Dolly Parton's Imagination Project to island children. Every child that signs up for a new book will get one each month until they're 5 years old. A wonderful initiative that will make a positive impact on the lives of many Islanders and island families. And also to all of you who are joining tonight, I want to say welcome, particularly to all our Rotarians who work so hard, and to all Islanders who are joining us, admittedly a little bit different than we are used to, but over the last almost year, we've learned to adapt, to change, and to find new ways of doing things almost every day. Lately, I've found myself thinking a lot about time. The time, of course, since we last met, and how much change time has brought with it. I guess that is the one constant after all, that change is always wrapped within the passing of time. That we have changed, how we have changed, combined with what we have learned and the recognition of what we must continue to change and adapt as we rush to meet the future, is very much a big part of the story of COVID in PEI. And it will be part of the legacy of this province as we transition through and out of the pandemic. It will form the basis of the speech that I will offer tonight. It will form the basis of the agenda our government will set as we position PEI for a strong and prosperous future. 2 days shy of 1 year ago, I was giving my very first State of the Province address with many of you, sharing the good news about 2019 and some of the things that we were looking forward to in 2020. At that time, the prevailing issue on all of our minds was a firearm threat that had been directed at one of our schools that very day. Thankfully, that threat turned out to be a hoax. But even at that late date, February 24th, we had no real appreciation or understanding of the much greater threat to our entire world that was lurking just around the corner. The Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist George Will once said, "The future has a way of arriving unannounced." No kidding. Only days later, we, along with virtually every other jurisdiction in the world, were in lockdown, unable to predict how long it would last or how severe the consequences might be in terms of human lives, the economy, and our general physical and mental well-being. Now, as it turns out, we fared well here in Prince Edward Island. In fact, some might say we have been lucky. Now, there can be no doubt that we have enjoyed our own fair share of good fortune, but I prefer to think that sometimes you make your own luck, and I think we've done that here. From day one, we've been under the thoughtful, reasoned, and science-based guidance of Dr. Heather Morrison and her competent team at Health PEI. Uncharacteristically, politicians like myself and the Minister of Health have stepped into the background and allowed the experts to do their job, the job that was needed. The opposition leaders and politicians as well have been nothing but respectful and extra careful not to try to score political points in the time of this crisis. And for this kind approach, I am grateful, and I know all Islanders are thankful. Our frontline workers and essential workers, nurses, doctors, long-term care workers, teachers, early learning educators, truckers, farmers, fishers, store clerks, public servants, hospitality and service workers, all have been selfless in continuing to provide the essential services needed to keep the rest of us nurtured, nourished, and safe. But above all, and most crucial to our good fortune, Islanders have responded with compassion and understanding. I would challenge anyone to find a province with a higher compliance with the public health protocols than we have here in Prince Edward Island. So is our good fortune a function of good luck, mixed with a lot of good planning and execution? For sure, it is. But I don't think any of it has been by accident. In my heart, I believe at its very root, it's a function of our caring and compassionate people in this province who appreciate that our collective health is more important than our individual wealth. Ladies and gentlemen, that in and of itself says a great deal about the state of our province. And if I were to end my address there, and Lord knows there are many of you out there saying, let it be so, if I were to end my address there, I would have said plenty about the state of our people, our province, and our community. Because caring for one another, considering the well-being of others, and modeling our behavior to protect the health and safety of our family, friends, and neighbors, those are the things that really matter the most in the big world scheme of things. Sadly, for you, I won't end there. There's much more to speak about when it comes to the state of our province. Overall, I would say quite confidently that all things considered, Prince Edward Island has done pretty well in the face of some of the most difficult challenges in this past century. For that, all Islanders should feel thankful and proud. However, we remain in the midst of a pandemic. not just here in PEI, but around the world, and in PEI, we're certainly not immune. These are unprecedented health and economic and social times for all of us. And although there are growing signs that we are on our way to the end, COVID-19 and its diverging variants have not yet let us out of its firm grip. And there's more work to do. And in the upcoming budget address, we will again face this reality. And we will need to set aside a dedicated COVID contingency plan to ensure that we can continue to help island families, communities, businesses, and entrepreneurs get through and get past this pandemic. Now, in the face of this pandemic, last year, in the teeth of the pandemic, in fact, we tabled a budget that included with it a record deficit. Every other jurisdiction in the world is in the same boat. Now, we have a plan to make our way back to balance, and part of that plan will include this year a much improved deficit target. But the catastrophic events of the pandemic, which threw our very solid economic standing into difficulty, combined with the remaining unknowns in our immediate view, require us to be patient, to be strategic, and most importantly, to use every possible lever at our disposal to first get through, then get on the road to recovery, and then on the road to growth. We are in a good financial position. We have the ability to weather this pandemic. We have a responsibility to each and every islander who has been impacted, and that is what we have done and will continue to do. Part of that responsibility is also getting back to a solid position so that we are living within our means, and we are also well on that path. As challenging as this last year has been, I believe there are important lessons we have learned from COVID-19. In fact, I get asked all the time, what have you learned most from COVID? And obviously, I think I've learned a lot about the resilience of islanders, their adaptability, and their innovative spirit. The COVID experience, though, has also validated for me the key strength of leadership. The one thing that I have tried to bring to this table every day on this job is the ability to listen, to work with others, not just to seek good advice, but to put it to good use. Now, it didn't take me very long in the process, probably about 8 seconds, to realize that our hopeful path through all of these health unknowns was to listen to our health professionals, to openly and honestly consult with Dr. Morrison, and to use science and the best research to guide our decisions. COVID in particular, in the beginning when there was so much we didn't know, was tremendously emotional. Islanders were rightly worried and concerned, and everyone had their own views and opinions on what needed to be done. Making emotional decisions at that time, in my view, would have been catastrophic for us. Using the best science and research and information, we made decisions, tough decisions, some unpopular decisions. But from the beginning and through right until today, there has been a consistency in our decision-making process. We have not once wavered from the process of using the best information to guide us. We have not once deviated or responded to the emotion. And that is not to say we just dismiss the views and concerns of islanders. Quite frankly, the opposite. Islanders deserve to be heard. Islanders need to be heard. We always have to be open-minded and open-hearted to their concerns, and we have to put the feedback from islanders to good use. We have done that. In fact, most of the programs we rolled out during COVID were because of what we heard from islanders. When we look at the issues we have faced before, during, and will continue to face after COVID, the same approach will serve us well. And frankly, I believe that is what islanders should be asking of their government. Many of the issues and concerns we face as islanders are ones that we are passionate about and have varying opinions about, and that's a good thing. Decisions to make changes, some that are long overdue, can't be made in a vacuum by one person or by a small group of people who think they know best. We have demonstrated time and again that by doing it differently, we can make lasting, needed, and appropriate change, and we will continue with that approach. So too will our desire to let the best research, information, science, and data guide in our future decision making. Whether it's our desire to preserve and improve the environment, to continue to lead the country with our climate action plans, to have a long-needed, grown-up discussion about the health of our land, soil, and water, and how they are all so intrinsically connected. Whether it is to look at the delivery of primary health care services in this province and further shift to putting patients, people, islanders at the center of that delivery. Whether it is our top priority to be there for each and every islander in need of mental health and addiction services with a system that is simple to access and easier to navigate, we must not be afraid of the challenges. And we must not be afraid to admit we need to do better. For only when we acknowledge the need to be better can we focus on the work to getting to be actually better. COVID has taught us the critical importance of courage, of working together to meet the difficult moment. And we have met that moment of COVID as an island province head on. So too must we meet head on these important moments that I reference, and so many others, as our province builds for a successful future. Now, to plan for that future, we need to know where we stand today. You may be surprised to hear, even on the economic front, that it's not all doom and gloom. There are some bright spots, some pandemic stars that have continued to shine despite the clouds, and yes, even the odd COVID comet that has taken flight and unexpectedly lit up the sky. I want to share with you what lies ahead, the challenges, the beacons of hope, and the priorities of your government in 2021. When I was here less than a year ago, 2020 was off to a really good start. It appeared that we were on track to continue on the upward trajectory we have been enjoying for the past several years, and all of the indicators were positive. And then the future arrived unannounced, and it's been devastating on many fronts. I can't sugarcoat it either. The turmoil is likely to last some time into the future. Recovery is not going to be overnight. Mending supply chain fractures, replacing lost income, getting islanders back to work, retooling industry and manufacturing, restoring consumer confidence, all of these things will take time. The good news is Prince Edward Island is better situated than most to bounce back with vigor. With fewer than 120 total cases of COVID, no hospitalizations and no deaths, knock on wood, we have thus far been able to enjoy liberties that people in our sister provinces can only dream of. And while I don't want to appear beggar thy neighbor, PEI's economy on many measures represents the best of a bad situation. Sure, the PEI economy shrank last year by 3.8%, but that compares favorably with the overall Canadian economy, which contracted by 5.1%. Similarly with our labor force. Particularly in the early stages of the pandemic, many businesses were obliged to lay off workers. Our labor force declined by 3.2% after having enjoyed several years of steady growth. But to put things in perspective, the number of islanders participating in the labor force this past year was 76,700, slightly more than employment numbers for 2018. When you compare our decline to that of Alberta and British Columbia, each at 6.6%, and the national numbers at 5.2%, we are doing fairly well. Interestingly enough, in the peak of the pandemic response, we have seen a record number of people working from home. Local research tells us that over 50% of the workforce worked from home during the pandemic, and 57% of islanders would prefer to work remotely from home going forward. While a year ago we would have considered half of our province working from home to be impossible, when push came to shove, we found a way to make it work, to keep businesses operational and keep the economy from coming to a screeching halt. And wrapped up in that is that part of what has been the give and take of COVID. On one hand, the lessening commute daily for half of our workforce help us to see a needed decline in our carbon emissions. On the other hand, for those in the service sector who rely heavily on that daily work traffic for their success, they saw their businesses either rapidly decline or disappear. Tourism and its related businesses, accommodations, restaurants, tour bus, the culture and events sectors, all of these have taken the biggest hit. Opening the Atlantic bubble in July certainly helped for a spurt in the summer, but overall, I think it's fair to say the tourism and hospitality sector has taken the brunt of the economic impact of COVID. Overnight stays this year were fewer than half the previous year. Traffic on the Confederation Bridge was down by half, and ferry traffic was down by almost 2/3. Air traffic was down a staggering 81%, and both cruise ship and motor coach visitations were virtually non-existent. I'm not going to try to pretend for a moment that the latter two aspects of the tourism industry, cruise ship and motor coach visits, will bounce back anytime soon. I know it's going to take some time and some proven success with our vaccination regimens before people are feeling confident enough to return to this mode of travel. This is particularly the case because both of these travel modes cater significantly to seniors, the most vulnerable in our population. On a positive note, more and more islanders took the opportunity to explore parts of our province this year. I see that as a positive trend and a continued growth opportunity for that industry. And I will continue to pursue and help that industry pursue opportunities as we make our way back to normal by building new business, but not forgetting about those islanders who supported them in the past year. For tourism, I see 2021 as a transition year. All things being equal, an Atlantic bubble will certainly be open by spring. And as the vaccine regime expands across the country, and when it is deemed safe to do so, I expect that our borders will begin to open to more Canadian travel. It will be better than 2020. It won't be as good as 2019, but I see the transition beginning in earnest this year, and in 2022, we will blow the doors off. In reflection, to state the obvious, we saw dramatic change in 2020. Change not just in how and why we do things, but change in attitudes. Issues were brought to the spotlight which must be addressed. This summer, as we have never seen before, thousands of islanders demonstrated their desire to see meaningful and impactful cultural change. The Black Lives Matter March was the largest demonstration that I can remember in all of my time in this province. At its root, it was a show of force and spirit demanding that we all do better as a province. We've listened and we've acted. We were asked to put a racially focused lens on every decision government makes. We were asked to review all government policy to ensure how we do business is inclusive for all, and both of those initiatives are underway. But our efforts must go further. Regardless of race, color, gender, sexuality, language, or religion, we are islanders, and islanders deserve to be treated with respect, dignity, and equality. Honest discussion and respectful deliberation are required, and we have to be honest with ourselves in saying that we haven't always gotten this right, because we haven't. Our choice, though, is simple, even if the path ahead isn't. We must not stop working to be better. More needs to be done, but we have made some initial steps. We have strengthened our connection with our First Nations, sharing more of their language and culture, ensuring they have a voice and a seat at tables of decision-making. We have dedicated more resources to create employment, and we have expanded on the framework of partnership to further create wealth and independence within our Mi'kmaq communities. With respect to our Acadian and Francophone communities, we have followed up on the great success of 2019's Congrès Mondial with investments to further preserve and enhance the French language, culture, and education. La Commission Scolaire de Langue Française asked for more funds, and we will respond accordingly. And yes, after years of slam doors and rejection, we have committed to a new school in the Evangeline region, and work is underway on making that project a reality. Pride PEI and the Peers Alliance have demonstrated the commitment to assist in making our province a leader in celebrating and supporting the diversity of gender identity, sexual orientation, and gender expression. Our PEI culture is broad and diverse, and is growing more diverse every day. This province must always be a warm and loving place, a home for every person who chooses to be here. No longer are these just part of the social fabric of our island, They are also an important impact or aspect in the creation of a more inclusive and resilient economy. Culture in this new and changing world economy is saleable. There is a growing audience for it, and nobody does it better than we do here in Prince Edward Island. We will make greater investments in those islanders as they share the best of our history wrapped in the hopes of our future. Our economic future is bright. Key areas of our economy have not only survived but flourished. The construction industry, for example, is booming. New housing and commercial buildings are going up everywhere. Building permits ended the year up 13% over the previous year. We recorded almost 1,200 building starts, the second most starts recorded since 1978. When we came to government, we faced a housing crisis. Our vacancy rate was less than 1%, and we knew our only choice was to take this head on, and we did. We made record targeted investments. We worked tirelessly with partners across the spectrum, businesses, entrepreneurs, municipalities, NGOs, and community groups. In this past month, we've seen the vacancy rate climb to almost 3%. Now, our work here is not done, not by a long shot, but we've moved the marker significantly, and we need to continue the momentum because we know that more spaces will be needed island-wide as our economy expands and our province grows. Not only has the number of building permits grown, but more importantly, the value of building permits has soared in virtually every municipality across the province. Investing in building construction increased almost 11%, totaling just over $851 million. And while new construction is booming, we've also seen that many islanders have taken advantage of their isolation to do home renovations and improvements. Real estate agents will tell you that right now the PEI market is very hot. That's good news and bad, I suppose, depending on which side of the transaction table you sit. It's a seller's market largely driven by our continued increase in population. At the end of July, Prince Edward Island had a population of 159,625 souls. That's almost 2,400 more people than I reported in my State of the Province address last year. Our population has grown by 20,000 in the past decade alone, and even in the face of a pandemic, we are still enjoying the fastest population growth rate in Canada. We had originally targeted by the end of 2022 to achieve a population of 160,000 people. It now appears that we're already there a full 2 years ahead of schedule. And where are these people coming from? Well, we know that many of them are new Canadians, anxious to build new lives and new businesses in a land that cherishes and protects religious, economic, and political freedom. At 13 immigrants per 1,000 population, we have the highest immigration rate in the country, almost double the rate of Canada as a whole, in fact, and we need that to continue and expand. We are also getting more than our fair share of new, while we're getting more than our new share of, We're getting more than our fair share of new Canadians, but the COVID crisis has prompted another group as well, islanders who are returning home to the safest and most secure jurisdiction in North America. I don't have official statistics for this group, but the anecdotal evidence is all around us. Real estate agents will tell you that they have seen a spike in out-of-province inquiries. Anecdotal or not, this opportunity shouldn't be overlooked. It could be a way of continuing to grow our population simply by welcoming our islanders back home. An opportunity to fine-tune our immigration and population strategy, perhaps, by keeping in mind that we are the safest jurisdiction and one of them in the world. We are the envy of the country, and that in of itself is worth its weight in gold these days. To these sons and daughters who initially felt the need to move elsewhere to advance their careers, Prince Edward Island is like a familiar security blanket that gave us comfort in our childhood. My dear mother used to say islanders are like homing pigeons. We're not content until we're back in our own little coop. And of course, we'll all be here with open arms to welcome those islanders back home. In addition to our population growth, the past year has been filled with a number of other pleasant surprises as well. Despite periods of lockdown and limitations to the number of customers allowed in our stores at any one time, retail sales on the island were actually up slightly, more than 1%. Wholesale trade increased by more than 2%, the fastest growth among the provinces. Manufacturing shipments declined by 4.3% this past year. But we can take some comfort in the fact that this was the second smallest decline in Canada. Despite this, the value of island exports actually increased by 1% in 2020, reaching just over $1.5 billion. Again, that represents the second fastest growth rate among the provinces. Much of that good news in terms of international trade is credited to the surprising strength of our two essential sectors, that being farming and fishing. You might recall that in March, we weren't even sure there would be a lobster fishery. But despite a 2-week delay, our fishers got out on the water, and while prices were off, catches were brisk, and some other factors like wage assistance and lower fuel costs helped ensure that the season wasn't an entire bust. The fall season saw strong catches and slightly better prices. And similarly with agriculture, a hot, dry summer challenged the potato yield, but cereal, grain, and other crops thrived. Crop receipts, led by wheat and soybeans, increased by almost 15%. Perhaps because more people are cooking and eating at home, farm cash receipts hit an all-time high. In the first 3 quarters of the last year, farm cash receipts reached almost $430 million. That's a 3% increase over the previous year. All of these benchmarks and indicators are reason for optimism. But the greatest reason for optimism is something far less tangible than GDP or population statistics. The greatest reason for optimism is more a matter of belief and attitude. Clearly, Islanders believe in a future beyond COVID-19, and I can assure you your government certainly does as well. But of equal significance to our future is the confidence that has been expressed by the third-party observers of the PEI economy and the financial picture. The fact that our growth was and will again be sustainable was recognized by the international bond rating agencies. All three, Moody's, Dominion Bond Rating, and Standard & Poor's, acknowledged that we are going to have a new world order. Acknowledged that what we have going is a new economic order. In response to our efforts to put in place the essential infrastructure, to diversify the economy, to work collaboratively, to implement timely and appropriately designed support programs, to keep our COVID infection rates in check, in each of these agencies approved our rating and have maintained our rating, despite the disruption of the pandemic. Now that says a lot about the rest of the world's confidence in the strength of our business community and the direction and leadership that all three levels of government have charted for our future. That vote of confidence is also reflected in the economic forecasts of the 6 major banks and the 2 private sector think tanks that track and monitor economic performance in Canada. On average, these 8 independent entities are predicting a growth rate of 3.5% for the PEI economy in 2021. 3 of the charter banks, the Royal, the National, and Scotiabank, are even more bullish on PEI's prospects for recovery. They're predicting growth rates in excess of 4%. But there are many factors that go into these projections, many variables that we can't control and many that we can. Thus, as a government, we must be ready with a variety of scenarios should something arise that is unexpected. As a government, we have been with you every step of the way on this journey. We have and will continue to use the levers of government to support you, to support our economy, to support our health system. Whatever it takes, for as long as it takes, we will be with you and we will get through this together. If I can be so bold to rob the words of Sir Winston Churchill, we should never totally waste a good crisis. Your government has bold aspirations for the year ahead. These bold aspirations will be grounded in the same decision-making process I spoke about earlier. We will use the best science and the best data to guide your government in the year ahead, to get to work, to tackle the challenges that have emerged from COVID and some of the challenges that have been pushed to the side. When it comes to mental health and addiction services in this province, as a government, we need to do better. This is a topic that touches every islander, no matter your age, gender, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. It affects us all. We have to make it easier for islanders to navigate and access the appropriate mental health and addiction services. Starting in 2021, we will introduce a single point of access for mental health and addiction services in PEI. It will be a 24-hour line, 7 days a week, where a real human being answers the phone and helps to navigate the process of getting the appropriate treatment. Gone will be the days where islanders have to walk through 7 or 8 different doors or dial numbers only to be asked to leave a voicemail to try to find the service they need. The single point of access for mental health and addictions will ensure that no matter who you are, where you live, or what challenges you are facing, someone will be there for you. We also know that we have to improve the fleet of services we offer when it comes to mental wellness. Statistics show that less than 30% of individuals need a clinical intervention when it comes to mental health. That means we need to invest more in community-based programs and services that are offered within the province to ensure that islanders get the right treatment at the right time, at the right place. While we know we need to make targeted investments in the clinical treatment of those islanders in need, we need to open our minds and put more emphasis and resources into early intervention and prevention. To do that, we need to be more upstream in our approach. We need to offer more mental fitness opportunities for islanders and find more ways to integrate these practices into everyday life. Self-care, coping mechanisms, mindfulness, and other holistic mental wellness exercises can be very helpful to all of us and must play a greater role in our overall strategy. And in order to do that, we need one central organization to coordinate this. It can no longer be piecemeal. It can't be off the side of anyone's desk. We need someone that wakes up every single day when their feet hit the ground, they are ready to go to work to enhance our mental health and addiction services throughout this province. To do this, we will be establishing a PEI Center for Mental Well-Being, a dedicated organization funded by but independent of government that will work with community organizations like the Canadian Mental Health Association, Peers Alliance, the Boys and Girls Club, and so many more to create a coordinated network of services that are available for islanders when they need them. This isn't a bureaucratic body to download these services to. This is a center that will advocate to government, educate the public, and work together as a network in providing coordinated programs and services for all islanders. The center will get off the ground immediately with a founding board of high-performing leaders from across the province who will build a solid foundation for the center to be fully operational by fall 2021. And in keeping with the style of governing that we have brought to this province, rooted in the desire to put partisan politics to the side, the founding board for the center will be structured to provide one seat for each political party in the legislature. That representative can either be a sitting MLA or an individual designated by that caucus. I have said from the beginning that no one person or party owns the good ideas. No one person or party cares more about these issues than the others. We all care, and we share a fundamental desire to make it better. And we have demonstrated as a provincial legislature that when we work together, put politics aside, roll up our sleeves and put people first, we can make a big, positive difference. When it comes to mental health and addiction services in this province, we need to make a big, positive difference together. This year, you will also see the start of our government's transformation in the way we deliver primary care services in this province. For decades, islanders have heard successive governments we're working to find a doctor for every islander, and time again, politicians have stood on the stage or in the legislature and have said that that milestone is just around the corner. The truth is, it has never been. And I want to be honest with all islanders, I don't think it ever will be. Case in point, the last 4 governments, mine included, have accurately claimed to have recruited to a record number of physicians, which has led them to again accurately proclaim that PEI has more physicians than ever before in our province's history. Yet the names on the patient registry only get longer. If we are serious about making this better, we can't keep doing the same things that aren't working. In addition, health professionals are telling us there are other solutions. Healthcare providers are telling us they want to work more and more in teams in a collaborative environment where everyone gets to practice to their full scope. And the patient, the person, the islander gets the best possible service in the most efficient and timely manner. To be clear, when an islander needs the services of a doctor, that service must and will be provided. We will put more and more resources and efforts to continue to recruit more new doctors, specialists, and health professionals to continue to improve our overall health delivery service. The collaborative medical environment has so many other tools, many that are currently underutilized, that can help, and we must do a better job of making sure those services are available to islanders, whether it be nurse practitioners, registered nurses, LPNs, social workers, pharmacists, and so many more. Islanders have been telling me over and over, they want to be able to access medical services when they need them in a timely manner as close to their home community as possible. In a province of 159,000 citizens, in which we collectively spend over $1 billion in the annual delivery of healthcare services, I believe in my heart this is achievable. In 2021, we will be introducing medical homes and medical neighborhoods in communities across the province. These homes and neighborhoods will have multidisciplinary teams ready, willing, and able to help islanders that are assigned to them. This is based on a national model, one that has the backing of organizations like the PEI College of Family Physicians, the Medical Society of PEI, the Nurse Practitioners Association, and others. We will hit the ground running this year by establishing our first 3 medical homes and medical neighborhoods in this province. A critical part of this initiative also is the electronic medical record system, which is in the process of finally being implemented across the province starting this month. COVID-19 has uncovered new challenges and amplified others. But one of the takeaways for me last April was that in order to ensure that we have a healthy and resilient workforce in our province, we need a more robust early child care system. For years, Prince Edward Island has received accolades for our great early child care system. We will build upon that. We must continue to strive to be the best, and that's where the bar is set for our government in the year ahead. Our 4-year-old pre-K program will be a great start this September, but we ought not stop there. We need and will increase the spaces required so that there is universal access to childcare for every young islander from Tignish to Surrey and every point in between. In order to do that, we will need more early childhood educators. And in order to do that, we need to increase the wages for those in this important sector so that more and more young islanders will choose a career in this important field. As I mentioned earlier, as we work our way back to balanced budgets and to make the necessary investments in key areas, we will need to get the cogs of the economic engine working at full capacity, and we will need to introduce new cogs to make it turn even faster. One of those new areas will be in clean technology development and innovation. Perhaps more so than most, the people of Prince Edward Island understand the importance of our environment. With challenging coastal consideration, extreme weather events, and with every resource sector that are precious in all parts of our province, islanders are very attuned to the impacts of climate change. We see it every day. It's February 22nd, and the Northumberland Strait is essentially ice-free. I can't remember a winter in my lifetime when that was the case. Snowstorms in Texas, no ice in the Strait. If you don't think the climate is changing, I don't know what further proof you need. Prince Edward Island has established increasing strengths in renewable energy and climate action. Our leadership in wind energy has been forged over decades, and we are still building our capacity across the province in this valuable sector. In the past 3 years, 13,000 homes have transitioned to cleaner electrical heating through heat pumps, and now 98% of new homes built in PEI are using clean electricity. It is through these innovations that Prince Edward Island has been able to see its per capita carbon emissions decline by 27.5% since 2005. That kind of climate action is essential in protecting our province's environment for generations to come. More innovation, though, is needed. Tackling climate action now and in the future will require our best ideas, ingenuity, and enterprise. We need viable long-term solutions in areas such as transportation and agriculture to meet our target as the first province in Canada to reach net zero. PEI already has some leading-edge companies established right here. Aspen Kemp and Associates provide innovative microgrid power solutions to island and marine vessels around the world, and Island Water Solutions develops next-generation water treatment and monitoring solutions around the globe. In 2021, government will embark on a plan to build PEI's clean tech sector, supporting PEI companies to develop and deploy competitive, clean technology solutions to help solve some of our most pressing environmental challenges: climate change, clean air, clean water, and clean soil. Our aim is to encourage leading-edge development that will provide solutions needed to combat climate change. To help meet these challenges, we will establish a $50 million investment fund for new business development and existing business to scale up in clean technology solutions. We will establish 3 tax-free development zones that will provide opportunities for clean tech businesses to cluster and take advantage of common services and supports to accelerate their work. We will also establish a $10 million research and development fund to work on the ideas and solutions we don't yet know. And on top of these investments, we are committed to creating the talent pool needed for this sector by working with our post-secondary institutions. The time to do this is now. By 2030, it is our goal to see the creation of over 2,000 new jobs in the clean tech sector here in PEI. Mental health and addictions, transforming our healthcare system, introducing universal child care, creating a new clean tech sector, these aren't easy issues to tackle, but we must. When you're in the chair that I currently occupy, you are presented with moments that must be met. While the position is often lonely, success as a premier, success as a government, I believe, is directly tied to the ability to consult broadly, to listen intently, and to be open to good ideas wherever they come from. Shortly after the pandemic started, we began thinking and planning for how we would emerge in the other end. I invited a group of islanders from all walks of life, from all regions in the province, to come together as the Premier's Council for Recovery and Growth. The group invited public input, and they received more than 1,100 suggestions and ideas to make our province the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And what I heard was loud and clear. Mental health and addiction services need to be improved. Our healthcare system needs to be renewed. Our early childhood education system needs to improve, and we need to create a clean tech sector to bridge the economy with the environment. Another of the key priorities discussed at that meeting, of each of those meetings of the Council, concerned those most vulnerable in our province, in particular those who don't enjoy the comfort of a basic, livable income. This is an area that all islanders want to see improve. We also had a key recommendation from a legislative standing committee asking the government to continue to make steps toward the implementation of a basic income guarantee. While I know there are questions that persist and more education required to explain to all islanders what a basic income guarantee is and who it would be directed at, I know also at their core that islanders want to do everything they can to help those who need it the most. We all know that PEI can't undertake this endeavor alone. I have written to Prime Minister Trudeau, asking him to commit to direct senior officials in his government to begin to meet with senior officials from my government to begin the work on designing what a basic income guarantee program could look like in PEI. I believe that if we could get to work on some of the details, use research and good information, park the emotion to the side for a time, and remember that we are trying to help those islanders who need it the most, that we can figure out a path forward. I await the response from the Prime Minister and his government. Those in need can't wait. Until the federal government can positively respond to this request, we will continue to make the necessary investments in shelter and basic needs allowances for our social assistance clients. This year, we will also proceed with the expansion of a PEI Secure Income pilot, putting more money in the pockets of our most vulnerable islanders who face barriers entering the labor force. This council group wasn't afraid to tackle the challenges, and neither am I. These are fundamental to ensuring we recover from this pandemic from a social, an economic, and an environmental perspective. I want to thank those islanders who served on the council and the many islanders who made submissions to this group. The full report from the council will be released to the legislature during the upcoming session. Many of the policy and program ideas and suggestions the council received will be reflected in Her Honor's speech from the throne, which will open this session on February the 25th. The willingness of these people to give up their time for the betterment of the province is reflective of the spirit of community and caring that is such a vital element to the genetic makeup here in Prince Edward Island. It's the optimism of islanders that has kept me motivated over these past 11 months. I have great faith in the people in Prince Edward Island. As islanders, we trace our roots to the Mi'kmaq, kind, caring, community-minded people who have opened their arms and their hearts to all of those, all of us, who have relocated here to this beautiful island of Abiquitt. Because they have taught us, we now know what the Mi'kmaq have known for time immemorial, that life on this sandbar isn't always easy. The land and the sea doesn't offer up its bounty easily. The land and the sea, though, will work best with us when we submit and commit to work fairly and sustainable with it. As a province, through unimaginable difficulty, we have done well together. We are close to the finish line. We need just to give another push or two to get us across the line. And as we do that, don't let up, don't let your guard down. And because we have done well, we are perfectly positioned to seize a strong, successful future. And we are in this position because each and every one of you, you've dug in, you did what you needed to do. You got us here until now, and for that I want all of you to be proud. In the darkest of days, when we didn't know what was to come, you put your trust and confidence in me, in our government. Together we found our way through, and for that I'm eternally grateful and most proud. And as we make the next steps together toward the bright future ahead, we must do so in knowing that we will face some tough days. It is my commitment to you to do everything I can to remain worthy of your continued trust and confidence. And I know in my heart that if we make these steps together, we will make this amazing little province even better. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Well, Aliok.
Premier King, in his address, reminds us that change is the only constant, and learning to adapt and function in new ways are the way forward. The Premier announced a few measures to the road for recovery from COVID-19. Some of the measures are a dedicated COVID-19 contingency plan, mental addiction, inclusion, health of land, soil and water, climate change, early child care remain top priorities for the province. And some of the measures announced include the establishment of a PEI center for mental well-being, a single point of access for services for mental health and addiction, a 50 million investment fund for businesses engaged in clean technology solutions, as well as 10 million in research and development investment fund. Although the economy has suffered, our prospects ahead look positive, with 2021 remaining a transition year for tourism and with a booming construction industry. Premier King, I would like to convey my thanks to you for being our guest tonight. And as a token of appreciation, our Rotary clubs will be making donations to Polio Plus in your name. My warm thanks also go to the organizing committee, to Rotarian Yolande Murphy, Rotarian Bob Gray, and to the Office of the Premier. They all did a fantastic job in putting this together. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings our evening to a close. Thank you for continuing to support us in our work.